In this video, I want to take a look at the use of the spin button, the ActiveX control spin button within Visio. I've set up a fairly trivial little example here to show how it's used. So I've got 3 spin buttons and I'm controlling the RGB values for the color of the square here. So everything's set at 255 at the moment. The square is white, and if I start to reduce one of the values, you'll quickly see the color starts to change. Yeah, you get the idea. So let's see how I did that. I've already started by drawing the square. Now we need to be in the developer tab. If your developer tab isn't showing, then you can get to it by right mouse clicking somewhere in the white space of one of the existing tabs and customize the ribbon. And here you find your developer tab probably isn't checked, so check it. OK, and the tab will appear. So we need to be in designer mode, and from the insert menu I select spin button, just click once and Visio drops a spin button there. I'm also going to select a text box to display the value of the spin button. So let's position those. Just resize a little. And I also want to add some text just to indicate the color. This is going to be my red button. So the next job is to look at the characteristics, the properties of the controls. So again, from the developer tab in design mode, using properties, I select the spin button. You see that its name defaults to spin button 1. I'm going to change the 1 to an R for red. There's a min and a max value, and that defaults max 100. I'm going to change that to 255 in line with the typical RGB values. And I can also give it a start value, so I'm going to give it a start value of 255. In the box, same thing, I'm going to change its name to text box R. The enable characteristic, enable property, set to true, which means that I can enter information into the box. I don't want to do that for this example, so I'm going to set that to false to make the field display only. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Down at the bottom, I've got a value and a text, and if we make that 255, you'll see as soon as I move off the field, the text changes to 255 as well, so those two fields stay in lockstep. Okay. So I select, and then holding the control key down, I drag once, let everything go, hold the control key again, and drag and drop. Let's just position that a little better. There we go. Change the name. This is my green control. This is my blue control. So again, properties of each of these. You'll see that the values have copied across from setting the red one, so the green one really only needs me to change the name. And likewise with the text box green, and I can do the same with text box blue and spin button blue. Okay, what I need next is some code that will manipulate the RGB value of the square here. And to do that, I'm going to let Visio write the code for me by recording a macro. So from the developer tab, I click record macro. Macro needs a name, so we'll call it set box color. Normally good practice to fill in a description, but to save time for this example I won't. Now everything I do is going to be recorded, so I am going to select the box. I'm going to fill it, doesn't matter what color at the moment, and then I am done. I can stop recording. Go into Visual Basic to look at what I've just done, and in the modules section here is set box color, and although I'm no VBA expert, a quick look shows that this seems to be the relevant point for our example here. This is where the RGB value gets set. So what I want to do is I want to pass parameters into this to set the red, green and blue values. So let's start by doing that. So we want a red, green and blue, and they're all going to be integers of course. And then I just need to change this screen so wherever I get a value I need to replace that value by concatenating in the relative color. So red, note I'm putting quotes around the commas and things to make sure I preserve those. And finally we put blue in. And we should be good to go. Okay, so I've got the routine I want to call. So the next thing to do is to find where the code that is triggered when the spin button is changed, where that code is. And you will find this in this document. I double click there, and then from the drop down I find my 3 spin buttons: blue, green and red. So what I want to do is 2 things. I want to put the value of the spin button into the text field, and I want to call that set box color routine with the new value of B to change the color of the square. I've jumped ahead a little bit to save you the pleasure of watching me type, but you see what I've done. I've got the text box blue and I'm setting its text value to the value from spin button B, and I'm using the little trick to make sure that I always have leading zeros. So if the value is 1, for example, then I will always get 001 in there. And then I call set box color and I give it the red, green and blue values. That is all I need to do, and I need to do something very similar in the green area, changing the text box and the spin button to green, and then again in the red. And that should do it. Let's go back to our diagram and see what happens. I need to be out of design mode for this to work, so make sure that's not checked. And now all the values are set at 255, which as we saw earlier is white, and I went and changed this to blue. But I should find that as soon as I start trying to decrease the value, it changes to almost white. So as I decrease the red mix, you'll see the color starts to change. And let's decrease green, and it becomes a blue color. There we go. I mentioned earlier that I deliberately made these display only, and the reason I did that is because it's actually quite tricky dictating to one of these that the only input it can have is a number, an integer between 0 and 255. So I'm going to deal with that in a separate tutorial. Once I've written it, you'll find a link on the right hand corner of the video that you're watching at the moment. So if you're not seeing that link, I haven't written it yet, check back later. Eventually I'll get around to doing that. Okay, thank you for watching.